Folks, what's up? It's Thorn. Hey, check it out. Here in my hands, I hold a pedal coming all the way from over the pond. My friends at Origin Effects, DCX Boost Tone Shaper and Drive. This one is called. Of course, you heard it on all the guitar parts on that track at the beginning of the video. This is an extremely unique boost and drive pedal. Now, why do I say that? There's a million boosts and drives. How can it be unique? It's actually based on something that I've never seen a guitar pedal based on, which is the classic Uri, or UA as we know it in modern speak, 610 console preamplifier. So it's a guitar pedal actually based on a recording console preamplifier or channel strip, and it's been kind of reimagined for guitar. So coincidentally, I actually have a UA 610 preamp. It was my first good preamp that I got years ago when I got more serious about recording, even before I did YouTube. So I'm really familiar with the sound because I used it a lot over the years. It was my only microphone preamp, like outboard preamp, that I actually have. So one of the really cool things about it is that it actually, like a guitar pedal, has kind of a drive control and a level control, just like this pedal does. So the front end drive on the 610 will allow you to kind of crank up the gain, and then you can lower the back end volume control, and you can overdrive the preamp and get a real cool, gritty analog tube character out of the preamp. This tries to replicate the sound of that circuit in the 610. Now the 610 also featured a high and low EQ, just a very simple, like basically treble and bass controls, and this pedal replicates that as well. You've got the low frequency and high frequency EQ controls there. The sound is designed to be super flat, like not mid-boosted, nothing like a Klon or a Tube Screamer, nothing like that. It's designed to be very full range and very flat, but they give you the ability to tune the sound of the pedal more for guitar. So there's this voice switch here that lets you shut down the top end. There's two different settings, one's called medium and one's called dark, and then there's the flat setting as well. Depending on the amp you're running into, if you're running a darker sounding guitar amplifier, this flat setting can actually work really well. But if you run into something bright with like some sparkle, like a Fender with a bright cap or something, you're probably going to want to use one of those high cut settings. And they really make a big difference in being able to voice the top end of the pedal to suit whatever amp you're running into. The pedal also features Origin's adaptive circuitry. Essentially what happens there is, depending on where your volume control is on your guitar and how much cleanup you've got going on, there's actually more top end in the signal when you've got the volume rolled back. Because generally when we play clean, we don't want it to sound woolly or dark, right? We want it to be nice and clear, but sometimes overdrive can benefit from a darker sound. So essentially the pedal adapts to how hard you're driving it. There's also this mode switch here that goes between an EQ setting and an overdrive setting. EQ is more like straight up boost, but you can get some overdrive out of it in that mode. And then when you switch it over to overdrive, it's essentially like switching in just way more drive on top, and you can get almost into distortion territory. Okay, so I want to give you guys kind of a run-through demo here of the pedal, basically, where I'm going to turn some knobs and explain the switches. For this, I'm basically using the tone and the guitar that I used for the first guitar parts in the song at the beginning of the video. And to get those sounds, I was basically boosting or adding overdrive, depending on the position of this switch right here, into channel 1 of the PT-15. You know, American style, clean, little dumbly, little fendery. Without the pedal, here's what it sounds like. So let's start off in what's called EQ mode. And you can drive a little bit, like add a bit overdrive in this mode, but it's basically kind of clean to colored boost. A little bit colored and got some drive going on to it for sure, but it just sounds like tube amp. Like I'm driving the amp a little bit harder. Let's bring up the drive control. And you'll notice that the volume's increasing just a little when I turn the pedal on. I like that. I like something to happen when I turn on a pedal generally, especially a boost or an overdrive. I certainly don't want the volume to drop. But let's bring it back to about noon. This is what I hear as unity, basically, at about noon. But some magic happens when I push the amp into distortion. It sounds better to me. I like it with the volume up just a little bit louder. So I'm going to bring it up around 130. Okay, so that blended sound of kicking the amp with some volume and also adding some grind out of the pedal is really cool. But we're not even in overdrive mode yet, so I'm going to turn on overdrive mode. So I put this switch right here, okay, this one that's called Mood, over to OD, and the gain will bump up considerably. That sounds great to me. I mean, it's just like a really, really cool cranked up tube amp. I know amp-like is an overused thing. It sounds like I've cranked up my amp and I'm getting good amp-like grind. It definitely sounds tube-ish to me, you know, which it's modeling a UA610, which was a tube preamp. So now let's get on to this voice switch here. This is really interesting. I've got it set in the medium setting right now, and there's 3 settings on this switch: dark, medium, and flat. Okay, what that means is that in the flat position, you're getting basically straight up clean boost, and you're not tailoring or taming the top end at all. In the dark position, you're closing down the top end considerably, and in the medium position, to a lesser degree. But in both of those, dark and medium, you're losing a little bit of top end and kind of warming up the sound a little bit, which can be nice with overdrive, and especially depending on if you're running into a bright amp, which I kind of am right now, fairly bright sound. So let's play with that switch a bit. Okay, in that last setting there, that's the flat setting. As you can hear, it's a little harsh, and up till now I've been using it in the medium setting, and it just tames a little bit of the top end enough and makes it just a little bit nicer to listen to. And I really like that medium setting. The dark setting to me sounds a little dark with my amp, but with a brighter amp or single coils, I'm using a bridge humbucker, who knows, it could be just the right thing. So let's go to the dark setting, and then I'm going to actually bring up this high frequency EQ here on the knob. Check out what that does. Now that's a pretty cool sound. It's a different sound. What I did there was close down the top end by putting the voice switch to the dark setting and bring up the highs a little bit here. So I'm getting less super highs, but maybe more up in the upper mids, and that's making for a pretty cool tone with humbuckers. Alright, and if I take off the bright switch on my amp, let's turn it off, I'll go to the flat setting, and I bet it sounds pretty good now. Sure enough, that's a really, really good sound, because I don't have the bright cap switched in on my amp. So now the dark sound will probably be way too dark. Depending on your amplifier, Vox AC30 on the normal channel, or maybe a Marshall on the normal channel, an old 4-hole Marshall, that flat setting may just be perfect, just the ticket with all the top end from the pedal in. So lots of options. And this is a theme with Origin pedals. They always give you lots of options to voice the pedal for whatever you're running into, and that's pretty nice, I think. Okay, I'm going to turn the bright switch back on my amp. I'm going to go back to the medium setting here on this adaptive switch. I said it, adaptive. That's the next thing to tell you about, actually. This pedal features adaptive circuitry. The pedal actually will have more top end in the signal when you roll the volume down on your guitar when you're in EQ mode over here. So if I get out of overdrive mode, I go back to EQ mode, and now I go to the dark setting. Sounds like this. If I roll down the volume on my guitar, actually some more top end is going to come into the signal than if I have it on 10. Check it out. It's subtle. The thinking is that with clean sounds, you might want more sparkle and more top end. So they made the sound interactive with the volume control on your guitar. So you can get some more sparkle, some more air in your clean tones. And when you roll up and you get more overdriven, the sound gets darker. Okay, so it's cool. It interacts with your guitar in a really neat way, and it's most noticeable in that dark setting on the voicing switch. Now if you switch over to overdrive mode, which adds gain, switches out the adaptive circuitry, and now you're just kind of in the darker mode all the time. And I hear that when I roll down the volume, it's definitely a little woolier and darker in overdrive mode. But the thinking is that if you've got more drive on the pedal, you probably don't want that extra top end in because it can get a little ice picky. And check out when I play with the EQ here what the differences in tone sounds like. The pedal can add quite a bit of bass to the signal without actually losing tightness. So I still like to be conservative with the bass, like not get it up past say 1 o'clock, but I am noticing that I can add bass. You can add low end without it farting out. And the top end sounds real musical. Like, I like it in the dark setting and then actually turning up the top end. That's a really cool sound. So for that last lead at the beginning of the video, I'm boosting my channel 3 on my PT15. So I just wanted to see what the pedal would sound like, just adding tons of gain to an already gainy sound. I got the gain on about 2 o'clock on the amp, so it's plenty on channel 3, and then I'm just getting over the top with the pedal. Adding some treble too to, you know, just make it cut, and it's gratuitous, but I like it. Thanks for watching my video on the DCX Tone Shaper and Drive from Origin Effects. Really great pedal based on the classic Yuri 610 console preamp. Totally unique, got a great dynamic character to it that's super amp-like. Out of all the pedals on the market that I can think of that are maybe sort of similar, maybe something like the Chase Bliss with the big sliders, that preamp pedal, that's the only other one I can think of that's so kind of unique when it comes to drive sound. I like it when companies do something different. You know, I try a lot of pedals, but it's nice when you get something different. You can check it out further, that link in the video description below. Click there, it'll take you to more info at the Origin Effects website. And hey, please hit subscribe if you haven't hit the little bell beside the subscribe. You'll get an alert every time I put out a new video. Take care, good people. I am Pete Thorn. Over and out.